right, we're live on Facebook, live on
We are
LinkedIn.
live. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this special edition broadcasting from our homes, No Limits podcast.
Yes.
So I'm here again with the marvelous Miss Mendoza, who is in her home studio, which looks way cooler than mine. I'm telling you, you know what's going on.
Fancy stuff.
Yeah. All right. So here's, for those of you guys that weren't able to tune in last week, we have moved our podcast time up to the morning to 9 a.m. And instead of being in studio, we are broadcasting from our home offices in light of all of us being home now and being proactive and trying to get this coronavirus thing moved through and over with. So today's topic, Whitney and I were chatting about this last night, actually came about because of what we're calling it leadership in the tough times. And the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because it seems like a lot of people are stepping up and a lot of people are not stepping up when it comes to everything we have going on. And when I say leadership, I don't necessarily just mean I don't mean just politicians. So I know, some of my posts and some of the things I've been doing recently have had more to do with politicians, but I'm talking about leadership, everything, the companies, what they're doing, the way the governments are handling it, the way parents are having to step up as leaders. Yeah. So that's what I want to dive in today. So Whitney, when I say leadership in the tough times, what's popping into your head? What are you thinking?
Yeah. All those things that you said from the top down, right? We're getting constant updates. What is the word above constant? Because I feel like it's more than constant updates.
I did watch press conferences last night. We're here in Georgia, so I watched our governor and I watched the president's press conferences last night. Those are the only things I've actually watched on TV. I tend to, for me, I do my own research. I tend to look it up online and I try to find two diabolically opposed views and then read each of those just so I can come to some consensus in the middle. But I'm trying to avoid, because you could really start to spiral if you stay in this 24/7 news cycle that we have.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting to scroll through Facebook and see, again, updates from top down, but then also what people are currently, just like you said, the parents that are leading, individuals are coming in saying, positive and negative things about their boss, like, oh my gosh, we're still having to come in, where it's not necessarily warranted that we come in, or it's been really great, everyone's staying connected, there's this kind of togetherness. It really is interesting to see everything from top down to the White House all the way to, here in our local communities of businesses and healthcare providers. Yeah, I went to the chiropractor the other day because we're all sitting at home in these kind of, I don't even know. And I was like, all right, Isaac, we went up to one of the offices and brought a desk chair back. But I thanked him, right? I was like, chiropractor doesn't have to be in, but they are in, and he said, we're doing what we can and we're going to stay open as long as we can because we really are healthcare providers. I'm like, yeah, you are. And you made me feel better.
Well, I think you've got to look at, so if we take the three areas, let's talk about leadership when it comes to our families and ourselves. Let's talk about leadership with our professional careers, and then we'll spend some time talking about government. But if we start off with family, first and foremost, I've got to applaud everybody out there, most everybody out there leading their families. A lot of my clients that I've talked to and people around the country, they're now teachers. They're now homeschooling. These are all things that they're not used to. And I have several girlfriends that homeschool full time anyway, and it's really trying to figure out I didn't realize what all was involved. So, I'm fortunate my kids have been at their dad's and having a blast. They're making music videos and all this, but I feel like those people that are embracing the leadership opportunities this presents with their family and really trying to use the time to reconnect and do something special and unique. It's crazy the amount of time that we've uncovered. I've been surprised myself, and I've been trying to be very intentional with my time at home. I've been surprised how much extra time I have. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the heck I was wasting time on before. So I feel if you want to be more talking about leadership in the tough times, if you want to lead your family then figure out how you can be intentional and be creative in the hours that you're at home with your loved ones. Or if you're home by yourself, I'm home by myself right now. So if that's the case, how can you do something good for others? How can you step up and lead with this newfound time that we all have?
Yeah, yeah. I saw a quote earlier this morning that was along the lines of being positive in a negative or bad situation isn't being naive, that's leadership.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really like that. I mean, too, because there's also this point of grace, right? Where you can't really get upset that the dog is barking or the only way she's behaving is chewing on her bone and making loud noises. Or kids coming in, and opening and closing the door because they like the way the door sounds.
Well, and I said that on Friday, when we did our first show is show some grace because like this is new for a lot of us. A lot of people aren't used to working from home. They're not used to having to homeschool their children. We need to show some grace. And I mentioned levity last week too, because some of us, that's how we handle stressful situations is we'll make, pass around memes or anything. I've got several group texts that I'm in, and we'll send funny stuff back and forth. But in times like this that are unprecedented and challenging, leaders emerge in different ways. And sometimes the people that can make us laugh in the midst of all this, that's leadership. I mean, it's just being able to, to me, leadership is not managing a situation. It's leading someone through it and making them feel comforted and okay and supported and loved throughout all of the stuff that we've got going on. It's easy to do with our families, but it's harder to do when it comes to work or companies or anything like that.
We have a couple comments on Facebook.
Perfect. What we got?
Okay.
We have Angie, fantastic ladies. So Angie's watching.
Is that Angie Rakem?
Angie, of course you're watching. Hi, Angie.
And then we have
Oh, wait, hold on though. Angie's memes are bomb. like every time I'm like, there's Angie again, and I'm laughing. I love it.
Yeah, and then we have Christy.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to ask the question, how can I be part of the solution?
Yeah, and that's a good
good.
point. So Kwabi, hi Kwabi. Kwabi put that in there, and I know Kwabi's a friend of mine who commented, and it's important to ask how you can be a part of the solution. We have to remember that people are struggling right now. Kwabi's husband's a physician. He is on the front lines of this. He is at the hospital every day. So there's a lot going on. So all of us asking, how can we fix this situation? How can we help? All of us can help in some degree. And that's where tough times comes when leadership gets to be important is there's something each and every one of us can do. There were kids. I saw one of my girlfriends up in Massachusetts, her niece had a birthday and obviously didn't get to have a birthday party. So they did a parade down her street, like cars drove by with signs and everything,
Nice.
and they dropped them presents. And it's just the coolest thing. So leadership can be in small gestures, or it can be big swooping leadership, for people that are in charge of things. And I feel like asking yourself, how can I help? It could be something small, but being part of the solution is definitely a big thing. So.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about companies for a minute because I'm curious what you guys are seeing. I'm seeing everything across the board. Our governor here in Georgia, and we'll get to that in a minute, but he did not shut everything down. Our mayor has since done that for the city, but I'm hearing a lot of companies proactively closing now too. So I've heard anything from a family member who's a physician who they had to let go of some people. So the physicians were taking a drastic pay cut to be able to pay their employees. That to me is leadership. That's phenomenal, where your partners and your companies are taking a step back and saying, hey, we want to keep you employed. We want to make sure you have your benefits and salary. So we're going to take a hit. I think that's awesome. There have been some other companies where they're laying off part-time employees. They're not paying salaries, and the owners are not suffering at all. Not that I want owners to suffer, but here's the deal. If you're going, and I'll be very blunt with this, if you're going to lay off your $10, $12 an hour workers,
Right.
and you own a company and you are not taking a hit financially and you're not willing to sacrifice some, you're a pretty crappy leader.
Right.
And that's where I think leadership has an opportunity to step up. I mean, they can't save everything. I have a good friend of mine who had to lay off 400 of her employees just to be able to keep things afloat and do that. And she made sacrifice herself. And it's it's tough for everybody, but I just want the people at the top and who have the ability to help others to actually help others, to put some solutions in place that are mutually beneficial to as many people as you can.
Yeah.
Because it's an unprecedented time, and I think the more companies can really get in and look at what's a win-win for everybody. I know a lot of people are laying people off so they can collect unemployment. I get that strategy totally, but I think it's just trying to find solutions that will work for the greater good for most people.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's so true.
Yeah.
One of my favorite examples, which is, I mean, you could say it's a big brand, but really compared to other makeup brands, it's not. They're still a relatively young company, but I really admired Glossier, and I forget the CEO's name, which is terrible. I think it's like Katie West or something, which is, I probably totally butchered it. But they were one of the first. They were one of the first to come out and say, we're going to close our pop-up shops. We're going to delay the opening of another store in a different state. But she said, we're still going to pay our employees. And not only that, we're going to because really they were an online makeup store anyway, and they just kind of fairly recently started doing pop-up shops. Yeah. And so even though that's where their roots were, if you will, they said, we're going to close, but we're going to continue to pay our employees. And by the way, we're going to be doing all this online stuff. So if you want to talk direct to a Glossier employee, you can DM us. We're doing 10-minute free consultations. Like, they did all this stuff.
Right.
And really the back end of that is the quickness of the CEO's planning as well, because she came out with all this stuff we're going to do. Here's how we're going to handle it. And that was, again, 2 weeks ago that, she was really on the front. She was a front runner for that.
And that's where I feel like the leaders that I'm admiring right now are stepping up is they're planning ahead of time, meaning like a lot of another girlfriend of mine works for a company, and she said her CEO was on top of this 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
And he had a plan to have them working from home before they even needed to start working from home. So the companies that are really having the forward-thinking leaders and are figuring out two things. One, first and foremost, how can I take care of my employees, the people that are working for us? But secondly, how can I better engage and communicate with our client base, our customers? And, I know you guys, Whitney, own a marketing firm, and it's a big deal. Right now, the people that are going to come out of this okay, we're all going to take most of us are probably going to take a financial hit, but the ones of us that can come out of this better and okay are the ones that are able to pivot, to shift quickly, and to figure out, all right, how can I be a helper? How can I help and serve my clients better? Because when this is all said and done, they're going to know that. I mean, look at the restaurant industry. A lot of companies went from a dine-in only restaurant to having curbside delivery and Uber Eats within like a minute. I mean, they shifted because that's what they had to do.
Right.
So I think that's, to me, that's leadership, is to be able to plan for taking care of your customers and at the same time taking care of your team, your employees.
Do you think that we were, can you tell her about how we were talking about how the restaurant has to pivot quickly with Amazon, and how Amazon has teaches us a lot of things in the industry?
Yeah. So if you couldn't hear Isaac, something that he and I were talking about was the fact that these restaurants are having to make pivots. Mm-hmm. So one, having to make pivots, but also the Amazon culture, if you will, that we are, of expecting everything tomorrow.
Right.
But then what are, something else we were talking about, or what are some ways, because you and I talked about Friday that this is the new normal, but once everything goes back to the old normal, it's not really going to be the old normal anymore, right? Like this is changing us permanently in a lot of ways. And so we were kind of mulling around these ideas of what are ways that restaurants or one-way roads, if you will, of industries that, they're in one pocket. What can they do now or in the future to prevent this when it happens again? So something that we were talking about, you were talking about delivery service. There's another restaurant that I believe is in Peachtree City They had just bought all these vegetables and meat. They had just stocked up before everyone said shut it down. And so essentially they became a butcher. They said, we've got all this meat, it's going to go bad.
I saw them on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah.
But it's shifting. I mean, one of the qualities of leadership is to be able to pivot when you need to pivot. And I feel like the best leaders, the strongest leaders, are the ones that anticipate and they pivot quick.
Yep.
You know, because you can course correct down the road. But the people coming out on top are the ones that they figured this out last week. They're not waiting for everybody else to do it.
Yep.
They're like, hey, here's what it's going to be. I personally think it is going to change. We're going to have a new normal. You know, I do think people are going to go back to restaurants because we're going to miss that camaraderie. We miss getting together and, you know, breaking bread with people. But the ability to be able to say, hey, here's what my customers need. Here's how I could anticipate. Like that restaurant in Peachtree City, it was more, they had the stuff, they needed to get rid of it or it would go bad.
Yeah.
And they knew that their clients were facing grocery store shortages where they couldn't go to the store and buy things. So it was a win-win for both of them. They were both able to benefit by that. And I think that's where we've got an opportunity. You know, I was reading an article yesterday that some of the largest brands, I think it was like Airbnb and stuff like that, came out of times like this. They were invented during times like this. So as we go through this and we're trying to figure out what the new normal looks like and how we can get through, it's important to figure out going forward, what can we take from this? What can we learn and what can we say, hey, this was a great shift. This was a great pivot. And how we can leverage that moving forward to either create new opportunities or new businesses, because while we may suffer and the economy may suffer and already is, it's going to come back. So the people that are going to weather this storm are the ones that are looking at, okay, based on this new set of normal, what do I need to offer people? What do I need to be able to present them?
Yeah.
So we have Stephanie Diaz just joined, and we have another comment as well.
Hi, Stephanie.
Wabi, so this is a great opportunity to reach out to leaders. Some don't know what to do, which is very true. A lot of leaders don't have a plan or before all this happened, and then it's definitely not going to be the old normal.
It's definitely, yeah, I agree. It's not going to be the old normal. And the leaders that don't have a plan, you guys got to get a plan. I mean, I don't care who you need to bring in or what counsel you need to get. But if you're leading an organization, a company, a family, whatever you're leading, and you don't have a strategy and a plan to move through this and how you're going to come out on the backside, you need to find people, get the people around you, pull the smartest people you know, and try to figure out how to leverage this. I mean, I had a call yesterday with the CEO of a local company, financial firm, Oxygen Financial. They're big here, and their CEO he's always on top of it. He's so forward thinking that I just get energized and love talking to him because he always has great ideas.
Yeah.
So as soon as this is starting, he's already thinking about, all right, what does this mean for my clients? What does this mean for my employees? What opportunities does it create for both down the road? I mean, that's what I would encourage leaders to think of right now is, in light of what's going on right now, where do you think it's going to go? You know, are we going to see a little bit of a drop in consumerism? Are we going to see a move towards more engagement and more communication amongst people? And I think those are really reasonable and good things that we may see some changes. So building a business model going forward that you can leverage those things and be able to kind of embrace what people are looking for right now.
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of leaders don't have the right people or in their team, so sometimes that blinds them because they are not hearing the truth rather than what is safest?
I think there's two things. I feel like there are some leaders for sure that don't have the right people on their team, and if that's the case, get a stronger team. I mean, we can always move leadership. I've been on several leadership teams throughout my career, some stronger than others, but I feel like most leaders have a good understanding of what their strengths are. So you need to complement those strengths. You need to pull people in that have opposing views, that there's diversity of thought, not just diversity is the way we normally think of it. So if you're a leader, I want you to pull in opposing views. I want people to look at and say, hey, I don't agree with you here, and challenge you, because that's where leaders are able to make good decisions, is when they're challenged. That's part of it is doing the right thing versus doing the thing that's easy. And that was, we talked about the governors. I get the fact that it is not easy to govern a city, a state, a nation, for sure. I'm not in politics, never want to be in politics, but at the same time, if you've got experts who are saying you need to do this, you need to shut down for 2 weeks, you need to do whatever, I feel like a lot of leaders are afraid to push back. So instead of saying, we'll take it easy, I'll be upfront, I was pretty ticked off at the governor's press conference last night.
Yeah.
Because most of my friends and clients, we're already staying home. We're already trying to do what we can not to flatten the curve and not to spread this out any longer. So the ones of us that are making good choices and are trying to help, it was very frustrating for me to see them not mandate that other people stay home. People may not agree with that. That's totally fine. I mean, I'm of the camp that everybody's got their own opinion, and we form that opinion based on where our experiences are. But to me, it was a lack of leadership to stand up and say, I need you to do this. Because for us in our state in Georgia, the press conference basically said, well, y'all shouldn't be y'all, because we're in Georgia, y'all shouldn't be together with more than 10 people. And if you see somebody, call them out on it. For me personally, as a government leader running our state, that was not a leadership statement. That was, y'all shouldn't do it type of statement. So for me, I need to see stronger leadership and stronger decision making. Is it always going to be the right decision? Is it always going to be a decision I agree with? Probably not. But I would much rather have a leader who can stand in the face of adversity and rise up when they need to. And at the same time, if it's the wrong decision, then come back and go, you know what? This was the wrong decision. I shouldn't have locked everything down for 2 weeks, but we did it, and here's where we are. So I would like to see stronger leadership, government-wise, company-wise. I'm actually seeing pretty strong leadership from most companies, though, which I've been very, very impressed with. And I feel like there's been a genuine concern to take care of their clients and their employees, which has been refreshing.
Yeah.
That's my little soapbox about the press conferences last evening, because and like I said, I'm texting a bunch of my girlfriends, and this isn't a political statement at all, because one of the texts I was in, where there's 4 of us and we're very politically split. I never comment on politics. What's funny is I'll post stuff and people just assume that I lean one way or the other, and who knows? I don't comment it. My closest friends know my political leanings, but it's not a political statement. It's a leadership statement.
Yeah.
If experts are telling you that we need to do something and we need to stay inside, stay inside. Don't try to be, don't try to play God in all this. Just lock it down for 2 weeks, and let's all get past this so we can rebuild and birth some new exciting companies that'll help.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, a lot of this comes down to your ability to pivot and change, which when you peel back another layer, that is mindset. Mm-hmm. And so that is, speaking of, I was just thinking of comparing business leaders to government leaders, in the sense of, if you're a business leader, a lot of times that means you built that business from the ground up, or you've been in the business for a while, or you were once the lowly employee that was in the smallest cubicle, and you did your thing and you worked your way up to the corner office. And we don't forget that, I was at once the kid out of college praying that I found a job in my industry and working really hard for what was, little pay. And this thing has reminded a lot of us what's important, and that can fuel your leadership decisions. So.
It can. It really can. But, leadership is about, at the end of the day, leadership is about making the hard decisions. Standing up and taking a stand and doing the best you can to move things forward. Mm-hmm. And what leadership is not about, it is about logistics. There's a lot to that, but it's really about making sure the people that are in your charge, whether it's your family, your companies, your constituents, if you're in politics, It's about letting them feel and helping them feel that you've got this. So if I'm looking at someone as a leader, I want to be able to feel that they got this. I may not agree with them, but I feel that, you know what, they're looking at this objectively, they're making the right decisions, and they've got this. Leadership should create a sense of calm in us as, the people following the leaders. And so that's what I really encourage people to do, whether it's family, company, or government, is how can we all come together and make sure that we're supporting one another, that we're showing grace, that we're doing this, and understand, I said this earlier, everybody's perception kind of comes from their background, their knowledge. We all look at things different. I'm going to crack jokes about things because that's the way I deal with things if I'm stressed. And so just understanding and giving grace to people, including people in leadership. I mean, I blast leaders all the time, not all the time, but when I don't agree with something, I'm going to say that. But at the same time, I respect them as people and the work they're trying to do, because I know it's not easy.
Yeah.
But the opportunity we all have right now in these unprecedented times is to figure out how we can empower the people that we work with, the people that are, I don't want to say underneath us, but the people we're leading. So how can we empower them to love others, show kindness, right thing, and also move forward, making sure that we're being proactive and thinking, okay, when this is all said and done, how can I move forward? What am I going to do in this new normal to impact my world, my business, my family, my friends? How am I going to impact them in a positive way once this is all said and done? And that's what leadership is. So that's where we really want to figure out, okay, what opportunities do we have?
Yeah.
And that's what I'd encourage everybody that's listening to do is figure out where you can lead. Whatever circle of influence you have, however you can use that circle of influence, how can you lead and move others forward?
We have a comment on Facebook from Angie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a long comment if you want to read it.
Yep, I see it. It says, bipartisan leaders stick out like a sore thumb right now. Please remember who's in this to support all Americans and who's in it to get a party advantage. And I think, Angie, that's a good point. I feel like it's very divisive. It's kind of, I made a statement. I've made some comments on Facebook, just the way, right, wrong, or indifferent. I try not to take too much of what people say to heart, right?
Yeah.
So it was funny because people are looking at this as partisan. And by partisan, I mean that they're trying to, if someone makes a comment about one party or the other, and what was funny is some of the comments I was receiving back on my own post, the people were saying, oh, you're doing this, or like they were kind of blasting me a little bit, not too bad. I'm in the same party as them. Like I know the person, I'm like, I'm actually on your team. So we gotta take partisan out of this. Partisan is, I can't say it because I'll lose my rating, but you got to take partisan politics out of this. I don't care if you are Republican, Democrat, what you are. We are all in this at the same time. So suck it up, Buttercup, and let's move forward. This should not be about party lines. This should not be about getting an advantage. This should be about trying to make sure that our citizens are okay and that we're making the right decision. And I know that's part of what's frustrating about politics, and that's why I don't talk about it, because I've actually voted both sides of the fence. I kind of say I'm politically like all over the board, but this is not a partisan issue. And I will tell you, for those of you guys out here making it a partisan issue, you're part of the problem. So quit making it a partisan issue.
Yeah.
You can think, one way or the other about the leaders, and that's fine. We all have our opinions, but the issue at hand is an issue. It's not a partisan issue. It's an American issue. It's just a world issue at this point. So I think we got to take the partisan stuff out of it. We really do. And it's, here's how I would encourage you to do that. I mentioned my friend group. I have several friend groups, but like this one particular one, we're very split, and we have politically, but we have normal dialogues. We're not calling each other names. We're not calling each other stupid. We can have great intellectual discussions about each of our viewpoints. And if we could all just start to do that with others, as opposed to name calling or anything like that, then it's going to make things a lot easier.
Yeah.
Way easier.
Yeah.
We have a comment on Facebook. Shelby just joined, and then she said yes, agree.
Sylvia, yes, and Laura, exactly. So Laura just posted, hi Laura and Shelby, said we need to unite on the positive support for each other. And I think that's the key, and that's the part that we're missing. I don't know that political leaders and political appointed people will be able to do that. Honestly, it's just, unfortunately, our nation's at a point where it's very divisive on a politics standpoint. So what I would encourage you to do is be able to say, be positive and support one another. So we don't have to, I want you to support your elected officials even if you don't agree with them, but we can still be positive to one another. We can still have rich conversations and talk about how to move forward and how to help. Because here's the thing, while the politicians are regulating this, they are not going to be the ones that pull us out of this.
Right.
It is going to be those of us that are out there working and trying to grow our businesses and trying to help support our friends' small businesses. We're going to be the ones that pull us through all this. So if everybody can remain on a positive front and figure out how can I be the helper. I've said this before, I think I said this on our show Friday, was, the Mr. Rogers quote, in times like this, look for the helper. So stay positive, figure out what you can do yourself, whether in your company, your family, your community, to help, and let everything else just work itself out.
Yeah. So what are maybe 3 guiding principles that you would give to leaders in a time of crisis?
Okay, that's it. So 3 guiding principles for leaders. I would say first and foremost, surround yourself with diverse thought. I think that's a challenge right now for leaders because it's too much fighting and infighting and just getting mad at each other. Surround yourself with diverse thought and be able to have intellectual, productive discussions with those people. That's what's going to help lead. I mean, that's what's needed in leadership. Any company that doesn't do that, I work, and I've said this a lot, I work in the financial services industry, have for 20 years. The companies I'm most struggling with right now in terms of me worried about them. There are some major financial firms that are terrible at diversity. They're absolutely horrible at diversity, not just across the board, but diversity of thought. They will not entertain outside counsel or recommendations, and they just kind of keep going through the status quo. You can't survive staying in the status quo. So you've got to have diversity of thought. So I would say any leader, any corporation, any government entity, that's what it's going to take. So first, diversity of thought and intellectual conversations with that. The second strategy I would say is it goes back to the Mr. Rogers, be a helper. Figure out there is something that each of us can do, even sitting at our homes working. We have a lot of friends who are out of work right now that aren't working. So there are things we can do to help these individuals, either financially or, helping anything we can do just to lessen their burden right now. So be the helper, be the second one. Sweet pea there. And then I would say third, show some kindness. Like just be nice to people. Understand that people are coming at this and viewing this from very different standpoints. I have friends who have been through major catastrophes in their life, and this is a trigger for them. I have other friends that feel like this is no big deal. And so I would say the third piece is exercise kindness, realizing that each and every one of us has a different viewpoint and a different history and that we're bringing to the table. So we respond to things in a different way. So never assume that you know what somebody's feeling or what emotion is behind what they're saying. Just takes time to exercise kindness.
Yeah, I love that. Diversity of thought, be the helper, exercise kindness.
That's it.
From Shelby on Facebook.
Yeah, it says, let's see, think differently, need to support each other differently during this time. We may need to refrain from being together, but we can still be kind to one another. Reach out, support a small business, and help in out-of-the-box ways. And then Laura says she's never been more of the helper for making connections, listening, and strategizing for smart actions to get through this. I think that's a good point, because if we're kind of switching to a more digital world right now, with us live streaming from home, a lot of us, I'm doing a lot of Zoom meetings. We had a Zoom coffee hour with some friends. I'm doing Zoom wine nights with some other friends. the dynamic has changed, but the opportunity to help and connect has not. So I feel like to get through this, we need to figure out how we can still help, how we can still connect. So buy the gift cards, share the social media posts to your people. I did a post last week and I tried to tag every small business owner and restaurant that I knew.
Yep.
And it was cool because they're struggling right now. So, there's little ways, even from your home, you can help. And I know for a fact, all of us have way more time on our hands right now than we thought we did. So take time to just reach out and help and be a resource to others.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kristen.
Well, thank you from the Liger Den. Thanks, Sweet
Yes.
Pea, for making his appearance today.
She's been a little rambunctious today. I think she's maybe tired of being in the house or having the humans in the house.
She's tired. She's worn out. I think a lot of us are. So we're going to keep this format until we're able to safely get back into the studio. And starting next Tuesday at 9, we're going to be bringing on some guests and talking about different topics. We will be bringing in, like I mentioned, a few people that are awesome that we thought would be great people to kind of help us through this new normal. So as we're navigating what's next and what's to come, we'd love your feedback. We'd love your input. And if there's any topics you want us to make sure we tackle, let us know, because we've got some awesome people coming up that really I'm excited about. I think they're going to help us define new normal, whether it's personal, professional, mindset, all of that. So we've got some really cool people coming. So stay tuned. Tuesdays, 9 a.m. now. But if we can be a resource to you in any way at all, please tag us, DM us, do anything like that. We are more than willing to help, because we've got the time on our hands. We've got it in our hearts to be a helper. So if we can help in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
I love it.
So,
Thank
you guys. Thanks for tuning in and being here. And until next week, keep pushing, keep going, and we'll try to maintain our no limits attitude through all of this. So you guys have a great week, and we will be with you soon.
Love it.